the first one. Good morning. We are meeting after a long gap. So recently there was a circular from the university. By going through that, you are all thinking that you are all promoted second year. Of course, that is not correct. When the same circular is given, if you promote to second term, it may be applicable for those persons who are from third semester, fourth semester, or fourth to fifth, or seventh, eighth, like that, but not for the year. Even as per it is even they are given in bold letters by following the retaining rules of the university as well as the MCA norms council. MCA doesn't allow the first year students to get into second year without passing the first year. You are aware. And moreover, even if there were no corona, your exam is supposed to start by 4th September. And the exam will go on maybe the end of September, somewhere in the middle of October or far end of October, you are supposed to get the results. Then you will be promoted second year. So such a thing is not possible in the month of August itself. So keep that in mind. So definitely you have to do one more internal examination, and once the things normalize, you have to come to the college and you will be trained for a month or so. Then you will be sent for the university exam. And that is the thing prevailing as of now. So with that clarification, I will start my today's lecture. Again, what all you have seen earlier, the same repetition only. Some of the calculations. So don't look at these functions as mere calculations. By doing this, we are also trying to understand the underlying physiology. So that also we are trying to learn some theory aspect of it, some practical aspect of it. You try to understand. Don't think it is only a mathematical thing. So we are trying to know some more than what a simple mathematical one. So in that aspect today we'll see some problems related to cardiovascular system. I think somewhere in May we have done it. Again, I'm repeating for your reference, and I hope you all will understand things and try to perform in the exam very easily and score full marks. First problem is the calculate the cardiac output using the following data. Oxygen consumption is equal to 250 ml per minute, and arterial oxygen content is equal to 180 ml per liter, and venous oxygen content is equal to 140 ml per liter. So now, what is cardiac output? It is the volume of blood ejected by either ventricle per minute. What is pumped out during each beat is the stroke volume, but what is pumped out per minute is the cardiac output. So in other simpler terms, it is nothing but the stroke volume into heart rate. The cardiac output can be measured by various means, by various instruments. You can use the Doppler, study 3D echo, and let's say flow meter. You can magnetic electromagnetic flow meter also can be used. And there are many other methods: indicate dilution method, high dilution, thermal dilution, and we can also do it by certain other mathematical derivations. So one such thing is the based on oxygen consumption. So here, the formula to calculate cardiac output is nothing but CBO. Cardiac output is equal to oxygen consumption per minute divided by ATO venous oxygen difference. So putting the values, so the solution is this. cardiac output is equal to oxygen consumption by ATO venous oxygen difference. So 250 ml per minute divided by 140 minus 140 per 1000 ml per liter. So it becomes 250 ml per minute divided by 50 ml into 1000. So it becomes 5000 ml per minute. So the normal cardiac output ranges between 5 to 6 liters in an average adult. So the formula you should remember is nothing but oxygen consumption divided by ATO venous oxygen. ATO means the oxygen content in the arterial blood minus oxygen content in the venous blood. So the oxygen content of arterial blood can be, blood sample can be taken from any of the major arteries by applying or by introducing a suitable catheter from any artery. You can take the blood sample. To collect the venous blood, especially the mixed venous blood, can be taken again by catheterization by putting the catheter into the right atrium. From right atrium, when you take sample, that will be of mixed venous blood. So that is an indicator of oxygen content in the venous blood. So by taking appropriate sample, by introducing or by subjecting the blood sample for blood gas analysis, you can find out the oxygen content. By knowing the oxygen content, we can calculate the cardiac output. So that is the formula again. Once again, cardiac output is equal to oxygen consumption divided by ATO venous oxygen difference. So by applying formula, we got result of 5000 ml. This is the first problem and solution. The next problem, calculate the stroke volume and cardiac output from the data given below. Oxygen content of mixed venous blood is equal to 115 ml per 100 ml, and oxygen content of systemic oxygen blood is equal to 20 ml per 100 ml. Heart rate is equal to 70 per minute, and oxygen consumption per minute is equal to 250 ml. From this data, we have oxygen consumption as well as oxygen difference. We have, using this data, we are going to calculate the cardiac output. As I said in the beginning, cardiac output is nothing but stroke volume into heart rate. Now, by using the previous formula what we discussed, we will calculate the cardiac output. Now we know the heart rate. If we divide the cardiac output by heart rate, you will get the stroke volume. So, again, the solution is this. Again, to hammer again and again. Cardiac output is equal to oxygen consumption divided by ATO venous oxygen difference. So, we apply the formula to get 250 ml per minute divided by 20 minus 15 becomes 15 ml per 100 ml. So, the 100 will go up. So, it becomes 5000 ml per minute, that is the cardiac output. So the second part of the problem, the said cardiac output is nothing but stroke volume into heart rate. So the whole thing is about 5000 ml per minute, and heart rate in this case about 70 beats per minute. So the stroke volume is cardiac output by heart rate. So that is 5000 ml per minute divided by 70 per minute. So both minutes will cancel each other, and 5000 ml divided by 70 becomes 71.42 ml. That means during each beat of the heart, approximately as an average, 71.4 ml is being injected by either ventricles or both the ventricles. And the 71.42 into 70, that makes up the cardiac output. That is about 5000 ml per minute. So that is the, we have seen the second problem as well as solution also. We go back to the third one. calculate the cardiac output and ejection fraction from the following data. So here again you should use the formula. Cardiac output is nothing but stroke volume into heart rate. So from the given data, we need to calculate two things. Number one, we need to calculate the stroke volume. After this already given here some 75 beats per minute. So you have to calculate the end diastolic volume. What is end diastolic volume? The volume of blood which is stored in the ventricle at the end of diastole, at the end of the filling phase. It's about 140 ml. And end systolic volume is equal to 70 ml. That is the volume of blood which is there present in the ventricles at the end of systole, at the end of contraction, at the end of ejection. That means at the end of filling phase, the diastolic phase about 140 ml was the blood present in the ventricles, and at the end of systole it was about 70 ml. That means after 150 ml, after ejecting the most of it, the volume remained in the ventricles by about 70 ml. That means approximately 70 ml is being ejected. Exactly 70 ml is being ejected. 70 ml remains even after the contraction or after the systole. So first we need to calculate the stroke volume, the solution. Cardiac output is equal to stroke volume into heart rate. Stroke volume is nothing but end diastolic volume minus end systolic volume. So 140 minus 70 becomes 70 ml, that is stroke volume. And the problem itself, the heart rate was 75 beats per minute. You multiply that with 70 ml, it becomes 5002 ml per minute. That is the first. That is the first part of the problem. We have calculated the cardiac output. Now we need to calculate the ejection fraction. What is ejection fraction? Ejection fraction is the percentage of end diastolic volume which is being ejected during systole. Nothing but percentage of end diastolic volume which is being ejected of the total volume available at the end of diastole. What fraction is being ejected? That's called the ejection fraction. The formula is stroke volume divided by end diastolic volume into 100. So putting the values, the stroke volume we have calculated, that is end diastolic volume and end systolic volume was 70 ml and end diastolic volume about 140 ml. Multiplied by 100, you get about 50%. The meaning is of the 140 ml of end diastolic volume, 70 ml is being ejected. That means approximately 50% of the end diastolic volume was ejected. The fraction of end diastolic volume is being ejected is about 50%. Normally, ejection fraction is calculated by comparography to know the efficiency before any surgery or any weakness. They do a lot of measurements, including the ejection fraction. So that will tell you the efficiency of pumping of the heart. How much is the ejection fraction? So in this case, about 50%. You will never get 100%. Maximum will be about say 65 to 70%, not more than that. That is the maximum. So even 50% or so, you can say within the normal physiological range. Don't think 50% means heart is only pumping 50%. Don't think that not the entire volume will be pumped out. Normally, certain amount of volume remains in the ventricles even after systole or even after ejection. That's called the end systolic volume. So you will never expect 100% ejection fraction. Normally, approximately it will be between 50 to 70. That's the maximum, or 40 to 50%. Anything below 30, then it's a compromised ejection. You can say the ejection fraction has decreased, efficiency has decreased. Normally, 50% comes under within the normal physiological range only. So we'll go to the next problem. calculate the cardiac output and cardiac index from the following data. The rate of oxygen consumption is equal to 250 ml per minute, and arterial oxygen content is equal to 19 ml per 100 ml, and venous blood oxygen content is equal to 14 ml per 100 ml. The body surface area is equal to 1.7 square meter. So using this data, you need to calculate the cardiac output as well as cardiac index. Again, using the first formula, the first problem, same case here also, to calculate the cardiac output using the formula oxygen consumption divided by atrial venous oxygen difference. By replacing with values, you will get a cardiac output of about 5000 ml. 5000 ml is the cardiac output. This is the volume of blood injected by either ventricles per minute. So this is one value. Now try to imagine your own classmates. There may be a boy or there may be a girl. There may be a person whose body weight may be more than 100 kilograms. The body frame is they are obese individual having body weight and body surface area more. It is suppose more than 100 kg or 120 kg. There may be another person whose body weight may be hardly 45 to 50 kg. So even imagine 50 kg. Suppose simply looking at the cardiac output, we never come to a logical conclusion whether the cardiac output is sufficient for the particular person. Because cardiac output of 5 liter for a 50 kg person is good enough. Again, cardiac output of 5 liter for a person of 100 or 120 kg, it is insufficient. Because the body surface area is more, the volume of blood needs to be pumped to each and every part of the body should be more to get adequate blood supply. So simply looking at cardiac output, we never come to a clinically useful data whether the cardiac output is sufficient for a person or not. We may not be able to understand. So we need to calculate what we call cardiac index. What is the cardiac index? The cardiac output per meter square of body surface area. So this body surface area can be easily calculated if you know the body weight as well as height of the person. By using these two data, you can easily calculate the body surface area. We have a chart, the blue white chart. Using the chart, we can know height and weight. We can calculate the body surface area. If we know the cardiac output per meter square of body surface area, that give a clinically useful data or useful value. So that is more reliable or more clinically important value than simple cardiac output. So in certain cases or in most cases, suppose you want to know whether cardiac output per individual is sufficient or not, it's better to calculate cardiac index rather than cardiac output. So by using those values, cardiac index is equal to cardiac output per meter square of body surface area. So you know cardiac output was 5000 ml per minute and body surface area is 1.7 meter square. So by putting this value, you get about 2.94 liters per minute per meter square. That should be only simple to only by 22 m2 only meter square. Or in other words, 2941 ml per minute per meter square of body surface area. This is the cardiac index, which is more useful value than a simple cardiac output as I told you to imagine two persons of different body weight. So simply by looking at cardiac output, we will not be able to judge whether it is sufficient or not. So we'll go to the next problem. So with this, we have completed the problems on CVS. Now let us see some of the problems which are related to the hematology or the blood, wherein we need to calculate certain red cell indices. Singular index, red cell indices are always called as absolute values. What are they? They are color index, MCV, MCH, MCHC, and these are the sum of the indices we calculate. And why we do calculate all these things? To know the type of anemia. To know the type of anemia. Because anemia can occur, according to etiology, there are so many causes. And there is a morphological classification of anemia as well as etiological classification. Etiological means depending upon the cause. So, in order to treat an anemia, you should know the cause of anemia and you should treat the underlying cause. Particular reason for which a particular patient is suffering from anemia, we need to know, then only you can give appropriate therapy. So, to know the type of anemia, simply you can know anemia by doing hemoglobin estimation. That will only tell you whether a person is suffering from anemia or not. To know the type of anemia, we need to know these various indices. So, I will give you certain problems related to these indexes. You calculate at your home, and when you meet day after tomorrow, so try to tell me your values and then we'll discuss about the solutions too. The first index, the first and foremost, one should know why we calculate to know the type of anemia. If you know the type of anemia, we can treat the underlying cause and that will be to give appropriate therapy. First and foremost is the color index. I'll give a data, just make a note of it and we'll try to calculate on your own. So I'm not going to do solutions now. So when we meet day after tomorrow, you try to tell me the solutions you try to do on your own at your home. Calculate the color index. The total RBC count is equal to 5 million per cubic mm, 5 million per cubic mm, and hemoglobin content is equal to 14.5 gram%. Problem is calculate the color index. Total RBC count is equal to 5 million cells per cubic mm and hemoglobin content is equal to 14.5 gram%. So using this data to calculate the color index. That's number one. Number two, calculate the mean corpuscular volume. Mean corpuscular volume. What do you understand by mean corpuscular volume? It is the average, mean or average volume of single RBC. It's the mean or average volume of single RBC. Now we are going to calculate the volume of the single RBC. Now the data I will give you is the total RBC count is equal to 4 millions. Total RBC count is equal to 4 millions per cubic mm. And hematocrit, SCT, hematocrit, or oblique, you can also put packed cell volume. Hematocrit hematocrit or packed cell volume is equal to 40%. 40%. So using this data, you calculate the MCV. You try to express your answers with correct units. The next question, calculate the mean corpuscular hemoglobin. Calculate the mean corpuscular hemoglobin. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin means the mean or average amount of hemoglobin present per RBC. In other words, what is the amount of hemoglobin present in a single RBC? That is the meaning of MCH, mean corpuscular hemoglobin. So the data RBC count is equal to 3 millions per cubic mm. RBC count is equal to 3 millions per cubic mm, and hemoglobin content is equal to 10 gram percent. 10 gram percent. That is the data. So you do it on your own and we'll discuss the solution in the next class. The next problem related to the index, the most useful index of all. The color index is absolute or it is of no clinical value, and MCV and MCH of little value. And of all the indices, the most useful index is the MCHC. That will give a more diagnostic tool than the other indices. MCHC, mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration. What is the meaning of it? Here, the definition of MCHC is equal to the amount of hemoglobin expressed as percentage volume of RBC. Percentage volume of RBC. In other words, suppose you look at the volume of RBC, of the total volume, it is 100%. How much percentage is occupied with hemoglobin? The meaning of it. In other words, the concentration of hemoglobin or the content of hemoglobin within the RBC is not the amount, it is the by volume. So that is the meaning of it. In other words, I put the definition correctly. It is the amount of hemoglobin expressed as percentage volume of RBC. Of the total volume, how much volume is occupied by the hemoglobin? That is the meaning of MCHC. Of all, is the most useful available index. And give a data, you try to calculate the MCHC. Hemoglobin content of blood. Hemoglobin content of blood is equal to 1.8 gram percent. 1.8 gram percent. And hematocrit or packed cell volume. Hematocrit or packed cell volume is equal to 42%. 42%. So using this data to calculate MCHC. The next problem is calculate the blood volume from the given data. Calculate the blood volume from the given data. Now we are going to calculate the blood volume. The data Evans flu. Evans flu is a dye. Again, there are so many types are there. Normally, what we give is Evans flu T1824. Evans flu injected is equal to 20 milligram. Amount of Evans flu injected into our body is equal to 20 milligram. The next, the concentration of Evans flu after half an hour of injection. Concentration of Evans flu is equal to 0.6 mg per percentage. 0.6 mg percentage, and PCV is equal to 45%. PCV or hematocrit is equal to 45%. So what is the data given? Given the amount of dye Evans flu injected is equal to 20 milligram, and after thorough mixing, say after half an hour or so, the concentration of Evans flu is equal to 0.6 milligram percentage, 6 milligram percentage, and PCV is equal to 41%. So using this data, to calculate the blood volume. You should know what is Evans flu, where it binds, by which volume you are calculating, and using the hematocrit, how we are going to calculate the blood volume. That you should know the formula, try to do it, and we will try to discuss these issues or the solutions for these problems. The next class, of course, don't wait for the next class. You try to do on your own and try to come out with your solutions. Wait for the next class. So now we have seen some problem related to CVS. So here we not only do some mathematical issues, we try to know what is ejection fraction, what is cardiac output, what is cardiac index, etc. And we know what are the various formulas by which we calculate things. And similarly, today we have discussed some of the problems related to hematology, that is the blood, that is wherein we calculate the color index. So as well as you should know, I given the data, you try to know the formula and calculate. And if you are not done with the class, then you have calculated about given problem related to MCV as well as MCH and MCSC. Lastly, I have given problem to calculate the blood volume based on the amount of Evans flu injected and its concentration. So we try to do these problems at your home, and we'll see next class. And in the next class, we'll also see some problems related to the respiratory system as well as renal system. So with that, most of the problems will be over. So here, once again, I hammer, don't look at these problems as only simple mathematical problems. Try to see the underlying physiology, and examiners might ask some related questions. So if you know what you are doing, then you will be able to answer. And everyone should be thorough with these calculations. That's why they are repeating the same thing again and again. So everyone should get a minimum of at least 4.5 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. Everybody should get. One should be thorough with the formula and how to put the values and how to get the answers and certain theory related to that. So not simply doing calculations, what sort of enter R1 value, and when we are doing what the field application, etc. You know things, you will be able to answer the examiner and you will get a good impression and accordingly you will get good marks in other practicals too. So with this word I will complete today's revision, and in the next class we'll see other problems related to renal system as well as respiratory system, and also we'll see the solution for the problems I've given today. Right? Bye for today.